Fore! All right. Ball left! Ball left! Fore!
Hello and welcome back to the Missing Links podcast. We're joined today by a very special guest, Simon Byford of PGA Life 365. Welcome, Simon. Thank you for joining us on this episode. First of all, how are you and how are you dealing with the pandemic so far? How's it gone for you?
Yeah, good evening. Yeah, thanks for letting me come on and all that stuff. Hi, Ben. Hi, Ed. Hi, Joe. Pandemic's been interesting for golf, hasn't it? It's as horrible as the situation is, I think golf's actually come out quite well out of it, because it's one of the things that we can just do, can't we? We can be socially distant. We can not share equipment. We don't really need to get anywhere near each other. We're all grumpy anyway, so we don't necessarily want any contact with anyone. And yeah, golf's actually come out really well out of this, hasn't it?
It's not bad. I think it's one of the things that stood out to us the most in well, it's probably you've seen it the most, but from our group of friends, our peer group, I don't think we've seen as many of us playing golf from different spheres of the world than ever before. We've all, well, me and Ed at least, have got a tennis background, and we absolutely love golf now. And we know so many people who are literally the same, and all our mates are playing golf. It's ridiculous. But
my Instagram is actually permanently covered in golf stories at the minute. All sorts of people who I've never ever seen playing golf before. I thought about it this afternoon. There was like 10 people playing golf on a Monday evening. Like when has that ever happened?
Goes to show, because you can't get tea time at the local municipal now, which is going to say something. It's that, you know, you have to book about 2 weeks in advance to get in there, so which is a good thing for them and for us, I think, as well. But
yeah, I mean, it has been great. I mean, there's lots of people that have been hanging on to cricket careers, rugby careers, football, tennis careers, you know, that sort of kind of mid to late 20s, early 30s, which is the demographic that golf really needs. Mm-hmm. And yeah, they're all coming across to golf. So it is good. It is good. I mean, the tee time side of things has been a new thing for a lot of clubs. I mean, you know, it's a big culture change for people, a lot of people, to have tee times, you know, to be specifically needed to be on the golf course at a certain time. Ben, would you agree?
Absolutely. I mean, people, you know, I mean, my mates who play now, actually, do you know what? Myself included, as hard as timekeeping is, some friends who I have, you think turning up 20 minutes
late. The question was leading to, yep.
It's all right. It's not all right. And it's hilarious. It's I've played a few times with friends who enjoy it, but they don't understand. They don't understand that me taking it seriously and saying be on time and do all the right things is normal. But because it's such a different sport to any other sports, any other ball sports, where you turn up and have a kickabout, so you've got to be on time, you've got to be prepared, haven't you? But and that's something I still can't do. So. And never mind all people knew were getting into golf having to be there on time. But yeah.
As Simon was alluded to in a prior TikTok and or Instagram video, that
more than one.
He's definitely
more than one.
But no, it's good. So we'll delve right in now. I suppose, Simon, tell us a bit about yourself and what you do, where you've come from, and what your history is in the realms of golf.
Yeah, cool. So I mean, I've been a PGA professional since 2004. That's when I started my training. Came out of university in 2003. Studied sport and exercise science down at Brighton. Was a tennis player. Played performance tennis. Played county regional tennis. Did all my coaching badges at university, because university paid for all the qualifications I wanted to do. So I did basketball coaching, volleyball coaching, swimming coaching, tennis. I did my DCA. I did everything that they would offer. I started coaching tennis in Brighton on a weekend. And I don't think he's here tonight. Is it Matt that's a tennis coach?
Yeah, he's not.
Yeah. I was interested to have a chat with him, because I completely fell out of love with coaching tennis once I started coaching tennis. Came out of uni with an 8 handicap, so never really took golf amazingly seriously growing up. I got down to 9 handicap as an 11-year-old, but never really pushed it any further than that, because obviously tennis took over at that point. And then luckily enough got offered a job off 8 handicap to train to be an assistant pro. Got my handicap down to 2 in 4 months of proper solid hard work. Turned pro, did my coaching badges, and have loved it ever since. I mean, it's a great sport to be a coach in. I think I come from it from a slightly different angle in so much as I never even thought about playing golf for a living. I never came to it from the tour side of things. I was just a normal golfer that happened to have a load of qualifications in coaching other sports and kind of bring that angle to it rather than necessarily someone that had played and hadn't made it and went at it that way. So it just, gives me a different perspective, I think, on sort of the aspect of golf coaching. And yeah, like I say, what's that, 15, 16 years later, still absolutely loving every minute of it.
That's amazing about the tennis as well, because me, Ed and Matty usually think about golf in terms of tennis and how we strike the ball, and we make analogies based on tennis first and then try and apply that to our golf, and that's how we work it through.
Firstly,
skill transfer is a massive thing, isn't it?
It is. I was going to say, firstly, we should say when tennis comes up, Ben's face will just drop because he's so sick of hearing our tennis crossovers with golf.
Every golf shot. Oh, that's just Ed. That's just like your forehand. Oh, Joe, that's your backhand. I'm like, what?
Yeah, except the ball's on the floor, so it's completely different.
Yeah. In fact, I picked up a tennis racket out of the back of my car in the car park of the golf club after golf the other day, just to get heckled by these boys for the way I was holding it. I didn't know you could hold it. I didn't know you could hold a tennis racket more than one way.
It's supposed to hold it by the bit that's covered in cloth, not the other end where the strings are.
Yeah.
But fantastic achievement getting down to 9 handicapper as 11-year-old boy. That's very impressive. That was quite good. And that was, to be honest, that's where my golfing kind of stopped really, because then the tennis kind of took over as a performance sport. And if you've played any sport to any level, they want to keep you in that sport and not let you play other sports, don't they? And I think that's something that hopefully coaches and sports have learned now, that kids need a variety of sports. You need to play as many sports as you can. And then if you happen to excel at one of them sort of later on in your teens, then obviously specialise.
For sure. And I think that's, I suppose, definitely me and Ed have gone through that, haven't we, Ed, in terms of what we did. I played a lot of hockey, I played a lot of football, and a lot of tennis, and it wasn't really until 16, 17 that my tennis really jumped on, and Ed's as well. And Ben, you've just been slogging it out on the golf.
I've been playing golf my whole life, and these boys just picked it up whenever they fancied it a couple of years ago, and I'm there trying to justify the last many years of playing. But I think that's the benefit of a competitive environment as well. I think obviously you boys play tennis with the ambition of competing too, and I play football, rugby, things like that. But individual competitive sports, I think, are so good for your personal development and your character, and I think that's why you boys can play golf, because you've got the discipline from playing tennis individually, whereas I've got the experience of playing fast-paced, a random game with lots of other people where you can defer blame and it's just about turning up on the day. Whereas golf, I think it takes a bit more time and patience, which I think you probably relate to everything, as well as obviously the physical aspect of tennis. The mental side of it too definitely probably relates to golf. I'd say probably more than most other sports.
And the resilience. I think resilience is key for golf in particular. After you've had an absolutely sodden day, it's raining, it's pouring, and you're still trying to score as well as you can and try and strike the ball as well as you can. But I think tennis is much more process as well, whereas all the sports, Ben, you probably played, were all reaction based.
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
I wouldn't say that your quality of reaction is any bearing on golf whatsoever. Like, the ball is stationary. The target is pretty much always stationary. What are you reacting to? Unless you are Johnny Wilkinson in rugby or David Beckham, etc., Cristiano Ronaldo in football, and you have that process for that, place kick, essentially, it's completely different. You're just basing your reactions on what's going on around you. Obviously, tennis serve is a process as well. You know, you see the players have 2, 4, 6 bounces. You see Nadal doing all these bits and pieces before he hits, but he does that every time, doesn't he? So there's a process. And I think if you're serious about your golf, I think the first thing you need to do is get a process, whatever it is, however random it might be, as long as it's not too long in time. Get a process and stick to it, and literally go, right, I'm just going to hit every single golf shot I hit is going to have this start point and this end point, and just do that for a month. You know, and every single ball you hit in practice, every single ball you hit on a course, have that rhythm, have that process. I'm a massive believer that you can have technical deficiencies, things that, you know, potentially would be faults, but if you have a process and you're sticking to that process time and time again, then you've got more chance of being, you know, consistent, which is obviously that magic word we hear, or I hear about 6 million times a week.
It makes a lot of sense, actually. And I think also with process, I think if you're doing the same thing every time, I guess when you're making those errors, they appear in the same places, don't they, I suppose? So maybe that highlights errors a bit better. Because I think one thing I've found myself saying to you boys when we've been playing is, I don't feel like I'm ever the same over the golf ball, right? So I always feel like something's different, but there's not the right structure in place for me to identify what it is. So that's a very good point, actually. I think that's definitely something we could all do a bit of.
Yeah, and it doesn't hurt. That doesn't cost anything to do. No. You don't have to look at any less. I know you boys are big into your proud of not saying you've never had any lessons. We won't go into that today. But you should have, you know, a golf lesson with me might just be, let's build you a routine. You know, actually, if you wrote down a list of all the physical things that you have to do before a golf shot, so pick your target, look at the lie of the ball, pick your club, look at the environment factors, look at your aim, you know, your alignment, 5 things. If you align those 5 things to 5 things mentally you're going to do, like whether that's breaths or putting your glove on to start your routine or putting your trolley in the same place or your bag in the same place every time. If you marry those 2 things together and you make sure you do those 5 things every single time before you hit a shot, that's actually pretty powerful to learn that. And you might spend half an hour with me just doing that. And actually, you'd probably feel like at the end of it, hopefully, you're a better golfer than when you started. It doesn't have to be technical swing positions and looking pretty on a video camera. Because when you watch the guys on tour, they don't all look the same, do they?
Absolutely.
That's really, really interesting you brought that up, actually. And that's probably one of the most relatable things. We will touch on it later. But I know from a tennis perspective, we always said, like, it doesn't matter what your swing looks like. If your racket, the ball, all you got to do is on contact, you've just got to be hitting having your racket in a certain position. What happens before that doesn't really matter. And it's probably something that's really relatable to a lot of amateur golfers, because I know myself included in this. I am constantly thinking about, I need to keep my club, I need to go back in my stance, I need to go forward in my stance, I'm going to try opening my feet up this time, I'll try closing my feet up, and whether it's the right or wrong thing to do, I'm constantly trying to change things and trying to hold my club in a different way. Or and you're right, like a process and a consistency is definitely key to probably improving. So yeah,
and also allowing the randomness factor as well. So Ben, close your ears for a second, because we're going to talk again about tennis. But if you say your forehand, if you tried to hit your forehand 8 inches in front of your body every single time, you would never play. You'd never be able to play. And actually, sometimes you'll hit your forehand 8 inches in front of you, but sometimes it'll be behind you, or higher, or lower, or left, or right. You have the intention of what you're trying to do, and then you work around what you're given. And I think that's the same thing with golf. Rather than saying, right, you have to have the ball in the middle of your stance for this club, or at the front of your stance for this club. Well, sometimes you're not going to be stood on level ground, are you? Or you're going to want to make sure that you hit the ball to your target or to the right of your target. Therefore, for example, you might push the ball back in your stance a bit to make sure that if you miss on the right side or the correct side, and you can do that with just your setup. I think too many people are trying to search for perfect rather than actually just trying to play golf. And I always have a big sentence that I always say with my lessons is, when we're having lessons, we're playing golf swing. That's fine on the range. But when you're on the golf course, you need to play golf. You don't need to play golf swing. And how many times do you hit a bad shot and blame it on one thing where every single part of your body has moved? It's so dynamic, golf. It can't just be because you haven't had a flat left wrist or whatever it might be. That make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. That was about tennis, and I completely understood it. That was really good.
There you go, you see. Yeah, I think that's quite important to be able to relate stuff that you know in your own lives when you then take it to golf, because golf's another language, isn't it? You know, some of the terminology in golf, even you guys don't understand fully what certain things mean, and what it might mean to me potentially as a technically correct term doesn't necessarily mean that you guys see and hear it and understand it the same way.
And I think that's one of the things that I in coaching, I've only ever had one official golf lesson in my life, but when I've spoken with pros and I think heard reviews from other people who've had lessons with pros, I think a lot of it is understanding. And I think I don't think there are many. Well, there probably are, but from what I think where a lot of them maybe fall short is that they probably don't change the process of their coaching for different people. And I think from what I've heard, I hear the same things about the same coaches and stuff like that. So I think you need to approach it with. Obviously, each golfer being different, like you say, everybody's going to understand things. It's the same when you teach. I'm an awful teacher. If I don't have to show anybody anything, I can't. I'm really bad at it because I don't think I can take enough time to realise that everyone's different and everyone responds to things differently. It's like when you're in school, people always talk about whether you learn by doing or by seeing and things like that. And I think probably coaches, I'm sure plenty of them do, but the bad reviews I've heard, I think that's probably where people are going wrong, is by not realising that everyone's going to be receptive to different things and understand things in such different ways. So that's very true.
Yeah, I think it's important to know the person that stood in front of you, and I think that's where I certainly pride myself in taking time to understand or try to understand the people that are in front of me. So even if it's just that first 5 minutes of meeting someone for the first time, I've got 6, 7, 10 questions that I will fire at everyone, and then from that I'll then get an idea of what I can use or what I can try and use to help them the quickest. Because I think if you're stood in front of someone for the first time, you have to make a difference. As long as you make some form of difference and they go away with a better understanding of whatever it is you're trying to do, then I think that's all you should try and do as a coach. I think, again, I've seen it from the lessons I've had in the past and from other things in other sports. Coaches try and impress on people maybe too much of what they know, rather than actually saying, look, this is what you're going to need to do. One thing, let's sort that out first and then move on. As long as the player then knows what might happen and they've got some good drills to go through afterwards, then hopefully they'll improve.
Yeah. Sweet. I suppose, and
I could talk about coaching all day long, to be honest, so I'm happy.
We can listen.
It's a nice segue, as one might put it, into kind of the next question in terms of your own individual tuition and PGA Life 365 itself as a brand. I suppose to us, the viewers and listeners, could you tell us a bit more about that itself and how it began and how it started to pick up on the TikTok side of things and how your social outreach has grown, at least over the last 6 months?
Yeah, TikTok's gone crazy, and we can end on TikTok, because to be honest, it's something I really didn't see it coming. But anyway, so basically, I am fairly old, and I remember coming out of university in 2003 when MySpace was still around, Facebook and Twitter was just starting to come around. And I saw this great opportunity to try and reach new people. The internet was obviously a massive thing. Broadband and Wi-Fi was just starting to become a thing rather than dial-up, which obviously was just not usable. So I often thought of different ways to do it. And I made the classic mistake that so many people make of making excuses that the golf club that I was at, which isn't where I am now, wasn't good enough, wasn't aesthetic enough, didn't have a range, didn't have this, didn't have that, made all the excuses why I shouldn't be making content. And I remember specifically Mark Crossfield in 2006, 2007, just being the person that when you went on YouTube, he was the only one doing it. Boom, he was doing like 2, 3, 4 videos a week, reviewing every product, doing all this stuff. And I thought, I could do this, but I haven't got access to the clubs, or I haven't got access to this, and making every excuse in the world. And then a friend of mine who's a bit younger, who's a really good cricketer actually, he turned PGA Pro, and we said, his name's Adam, and we said, right, let's do something together. Neither of us are particularly great in front of the camera, but if we work together, so I can talk to you, you can hold the camera type thing, and we work together. What can we do to get some coaching content out there, and then to try and reach people, basically mostly on YouTube and Facebook at the time. So we came up with PGA Life 365. When was that? That was probably 6-7 years ago, so maybe 2013, something like that. And made videos. We did a weekly show reviewing what was going on tour, etc., coaching videos, but never really kind of took off, because we're both full-time coaches, so it was difficult, obviously, to find the time. And then I went over to Ireland to coach camp, where a whole load of PGA pros go. One of my friends that I trained with was actually organising it, which was really fortuitous. And I went over to stay with him in Dublin for a couple of nights before the actual event. Mark Crossfield was speaking. Dana Dahlquist was speaking, who I don't know if you guys know Dana Dahlquist, but he's a pretty big American coach. A guy called Joe Mayo, who goes by the name Trackman Maestro. You may or may not have heard of him. He's not really on socials anymore. And a guy called Martin Chuck was the other speaker, who owns the Tour Striker training aid products. I don't know if you've heard of them. Anyway, they were the key speakers, and I got the opportunity to play golf with 3 of them, not Dana Dahlquist, but got a chance to play with Martin Chuck, Joe Mayo and Mark Crossfield in Ireland. And I obviously gravitated towards Mark because I'd not met him before, and he's kind of was doing the stuff that I wanted to do. And he was like, look, forget all the excuses, forget everything, just literally do it. And I was like, okay, right. So then came back and we hit the ground pretty hard for a few years. Then all the stuff happened on YouTube with Logan Paul. I don't know if you remember that, back in 2014, 2015, where they completely changed the algorithm. And we were getting good views, but not necessarily turning them into subscribers. So the YouTube content we kept it going. And then obviously I did Project Left, which we'll get onto in a bit. And the 2 of us, and we have another guy called Ryan, who's our amateur, who's 17 handicapper, again, documenting his journey, kind of like you guys are doing, as kind of like the amateur aspect of our channel, of our brand. We each took a social media platform. So Adam took Facebook, Ryan took Instagram, and I took Twitter. And this was maybe 2 years ago. So I just ran the Twitter account, and you'd post stuff and you'd make little videos and you get nothing back from it. And then January this year, one of my friends from university contacted me, and he works at TikTok, and he was like, "Si, you need to get on TikTok, because I think golf's going to be pretty massive this year. You're pretty good in front of a camera. You're quite good at short form content. Get on it." And I was like, "Okay, what is TikTok?" Because to be honest, for me, TikTok was just kids dancing, which I think it was kind of for all of us, wasn't it? To start with, we thought, well, what, and then I made a few videos. I know you probably haven't, but if you scroll back far enough, you'll see my first few videos where I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm like, I'm just going to make some stuff and see what happens. And one of the great things about TikTok is, for me, the ability to video reply to comments. And I started to do that, and my comment section and the engagement started to go crazy. And so you reply to a few more, and then people give you questions that give me inspiration to then go out and film something. And you can film something that's 15, 20 seconds, 9 seconds long. I wouldn't say easily, but quite simply, either within the app or within editing software, and get it out there. And actually looks quite good. And TikTok, as an algorithm, gives you a chance to reach new people every single time. So if your content's engaging, it is a great platform to reach new people. And I am the sole runner of the TikTok account, because the other boys were like, "What the hell is this? What are you doing?" And I've worked pretty hard since March, when we went into lockdown. And I think we get about 1.1 million views a week, and it's just crazy. And it's that community that I've kind of always wanted to grow, and knew that I had the info to spread that word and to give that sort of advice, but never managed to have the reach. And that's what this platform does more than anything. Would you agree?
For sure. And I think that the whole story is, I suppose it's one of those things that don't ever stop doing something that you enjoy as well, right? Because you never know when it all comes together.
Yeah, definitely.
You never know when it comes together, but you could say that the years prior, building up to that point of getting you in front of the camera, getting you comfortable in front of the camera, honing your craft, as it were, in those kind of that short form content and whatever it was, built up to this moment on TikTok, and then the platform's there for you, and you're starting to maximize the benefit and potential from it. And I think you're right. And so the example you've pulled out in terms of responding to individual comments and questions, I think I remember personally seeing that when you started to do that, and it just replicated, and it cycled, and it just grew, and it was snowballed, and it just became it was just one thing after another, and it kept growing and growing and growing. And as you say, I mean, this is the thing, it gives you, well, golf in itself is a content beautiful sport to some degree, and you're just getting content after content you can make and produce and get out and help people, and that value added is consistent, and it will always be there. It will always be there. If someone's got a question that you can respond to and you have the knowledge, again, this is honed after many, many years in the sport, you can deliver that knowledge relatively quickly. So
literally very quickly. You can make a video in 30 seconds, literally 10 seconds talking to camera, quickly write some blurb. You got your bubble hashtags that you just copy and paste in there, choose your cover shot, post, done. And you could do that, I could do that. I could spend 10 minutes and make 20 bits of content, spread the release, save them all to my drafts or save them all as private, release them sporadically throughout the day. And I've not really felt like I've had to work too hard for it. Yeah. It gives you, and obviously the work has gone in the background with the knowledge and whatnot, but the actual physical making content, you don't have to, it's really nice that I've got this set up, and I need to sort out my USB lights so they don't keep turning off, but I don't need any of this. I could literally sit in my bedroom, and there are plenty of videos on my TikTok where I am literally sat on my bed making videos, and no one cares about what it looks like. As much as you say, yes, golf is aesthetic, one of the things with TikTok is it's not supposed to be. It doesn't have to be pretty. It just has to be, like you say, value added.
Yeah. Oh, it's a fascinating platform as well, and a route to, in some ways, funneling interested parties to places where you also want them, which is another fascinating aspect of it as well. So, and it's an interest. And this is the other thing: the golf community. You're picking up. You say you've grown your own community. There are people there that you will see consistently, day in, day out, enjoying your videos. And obviously, you look at it from, obviously there is a business aspect to it. So my audience has gone up massively because of it. I've got people traveling further to see me for individual and face-to-face lessons. One of the big things that we've done locally, with our brand is golf holidays and golf trips. Yeah. And that's now something that, because of this audience, we can now offer bigger, better, wider things more often. And of course that will make us some money, but it also opens doors. One of the things that if you travel with us as a PGA professionals, we can get the best deals because we can contact the local clubs. We went and we had a trip in 2018 to Le Golf National. So we went to the Ryder Cup venue, literally the March after they played the Ryder Cup. And we had 3 nights, 4 rounds of golf, everything included. And it was a fantastic deal for the guys. They obviously had to find their own way there, but most people just drove and went on the Channel Tunnel. And we had a fantastic time. We had a great holiday lined up for Spain this year. So 5 nights, 6 rounds of golf, all-inclusive hotel on March the 24th. And lockdown was on March the 23rd. So that was interesting. Because on March the 22nd, we were still flying. They hadn't cancelled that flight. The hotel was closed, but the flight was still on. And yeah, so that was quite a fun few hours trying to get that all sorted out for the guests and stuff. But yeah, one of the things that we want to do is far more UK and worldwide based holidays, basically coaching holidays.
That's a really unique thing, I think, because we recently went on our first sort of golf trip. We didn't go too far, but we only did a couple of nights. But that's a really interesting way to look at it. So these, just curiosity, so these are golfing holidays, you'll play the 6 rounds, and there's coaching involved throughout, basically.
Yeah, one of the things we want to make sure is that every day there is a coaching slot booked.
Yeah.
So we want to always offer private range, so private range space just for you guys that would come on the trip, where Adam and I would be there to give you any coaching that you wanted. It's not compulsory; you don't have to. If you want to have a lie-in or whatever, we'll have a 2-hour slot either on the short game area or on the range for you to use. Then we'd have like a mid-morning tea time. And then obviously an evening meal and whatever you wanted to do or whatever we laid on in the evening. And it worked really, really well. The guys could pick and choose whether they wanted coaching or just private space to warm up, just to know that you can rock up 20 minutes before the tea time. There will be golf balls there. You can hit balls. You can have a warm up. If you've got a question or two, we'll be wandering around the range. And then you go out to play. It was really good system, to be honest. It worked really well.
That's a real niche. I've not heard of anything like that. That's brilliant. That sounds cool.
We know where to go next time. We're looking to
grow as well. Sorry, Ed.
No, we know where to go next time we want to go away anyway. Because
yes.
Well, I'm sure you'll hear about it on social media. So
yeah, we ended up. Not our fourth choice. That sounds like it was the want to go there, but we had 3 other different places in mind before we got to our final destination. So it's chaos, but that's a great proposition. Though, really like that.
Which also, Ed, is another good segue into another piece of content, which is course reviews and resort reviews by the Fantastic Four amateur golfers. So you'll be seeing that no doubt in the future. I suppose to bring to a close, and I'll add this at the end of the first podcast as well. Simon, can you just give us a bit of insight, your socials, where to find you, everything around that, any promotions you want to do and things like that?
Yeah, cool. So, I mean, PGA Life 365, literally any social media, we're pretty much on them all. PGALife365.co.uk is our website. That will also link you to my personal website. If you want online coaching, if you want face-to-face coaching, I'm available for all of that. I am a full-time coach, so I'm available for coaching. PGA Life 365 is a social brand. It is what it is. There will be golf holidays, coaching holidays, trips, bits and pieces coming up. We're getting pretty good contact with a lot of brands at the moment, so we've got loads of giveaways and stuff in the pipeline. And I think you've got to do your bit if you get the opportunity to do giveaways, like we said before, with charity stuff. Do what you can to give back, and that's hopefully what you get from us, is that it's fairly real. And hopefully we feel like you play some better golf off the back of it.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I think on account of all of this, it's been a delight to have you on, and there's been some really insightful conversation. And thank you very much for that. So thank you everyone for listening. I suppose that draws to an end this podcast, and we'll see you soon.